Policymakers in the White House regard a tariff war as a zero-sum game. The Warren Buffett parable that you refer to relates to two islands. One is called Thriftville and one is called Squanderville. And Thriftville runs a trade surplus with Squanderville. In other words, Thriftville makes a lot of good stuff and sells it to Squanderville, and Squanderville ends up owing so much to Thriftville that Thriftville ends up taking over Squanderville's land. The import certificates idea is the notion that exporters would earn a certificate which they would then be able to trade on the open market and which could be purchased by people who wish to import goods from wherever in the world and in whatever industry. Policymakers in the White House regard a tariff war as a zero-sum game. And they believe that the tariffs can inflict more pain on China than the US will suffer in a bilateral tariff war. The policymakers also look at the percentage of GDP accounted for by international trade. And in the case of the United States, it's 25%. In the case of China, it's 35%. The US, although it is a very strong player internationally, is actually quite a self-sufficient economy, doesn't rely so much on international trade. And that leads some of these policymakers to myopically believe that they can win a tariff war. When in actuality, 95% of economists, I think, would argue that the law of comparative advantage means that different countries should be doing what different countries can do best. And of course, the growth of trade and investment, cross-border investment in the last 60, 70 years has been important to guaranteeing world peace because of the interactions and the cross-border investments of different countries.